Joining me at MarketSite, we have Lance McGray. He's the head of ETF product over at Advisors Asset Management. We're going to focus on moving strategies over to value. Thank you so much for joining us at MarketSite today. And you can imagine in this kind of market, that really is the question. Are we starting to see value outperform growth?
Well, I think it's a little too early to tell if we're going to have a trend that way, but we're certainly seeing it in the returns of the markets. Growth has had a fantastic run coming out of the financial crisis back to 2009, and it's actually outperformed value strategies by over 4% per annum. So while we're seeing this shift away from growth into value, especially over the last 3 months as the S&P, as the U.S. equity market has sold off 10+%, it might be a little premature to call it a trend, but we certainly are seeing trends that way.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the fourth quarter, because if you look at Q4 of 2018, it looks like a very different market than the first half of 2018.
No question. I think all the uncertainties that are out there, the trade wars, potential recession coming, a lot of the unknowns that were still there back in the summer are still there, but I think they're starting to weigh on people more. And as I said, the market has sold off 10+%. So that is definitely feeding the value to, or growth to value story that we have seen over the last few months.
Are you starting to see this be reflected in ETF flows?
No question. One of the major benefits of ETFs is they are so transparent. At Advisors Asset Management, we really do focus on income solutions, particularly dividend strategies. And one of the things that we really look at is a basket of dividend and value ETFs. Over the last 3 months, we've seen nearly $18 billion of inflows into these ETFs, and that is a drastic change from what we've seen in the recent years.
Right. Now, are dividend ETFs, are they all the same, or do they have very specific characteristics?
They vary widely. Mm-hmm. There were north of 30 dividend ETFs focused on the U.S. equity market, and what I tell people is it's really important to look at what you hold. Don't necessarily just look at the name of the fund or even the expense ratio, but really dig into the underlying index methodology. Some of the things that we really like to focus on are, number one, looking at high-yielding equities. High-yielding equities have proven to be, a source of alpha over the years. But as we've seen in history and research reports, seeking the highest yielding equities isn't really the best way to go sometimes.
Right, well, they have a high yield for a reason.
Exactly.
Right. And
that brings me to my sort of second point, is that we really want to look for dividend sustainability. Well, that high yielding factor is important. It's just as important to find the stocks that are growing the dividend and have the ability to maintain and grow that in the future.
All right, now what are some examples of a dividend ETF that you're recommending?
So we launched our high dividend value ETFs last year. Tickers are SPDV and EEMD, along with DMDV, which just launched a few weeks ago. And these are a culmination of things that we've seen in the marketplace over the last 15 years or so. And that is really blending the importance of a high yield and also dividend sustainability. And with these ETFs, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can get the best of both worlds, and we really do think that's the best way to go in this market.
Right, particularly if the market remains the same as it has been for the fourth quarter of 2018, even if we do return to a more growth style market, or somewhat, maybe not quite what we saw in 2017, because that was an anomaly in of itself, these should still perform because they are healthy dividend paying companies.
Exactly. And the one thing that I would add to that, if investors are looking for dividend ETFs, look at your sector diversification. Again, as you noted, not all dividend ETFs are created equally. And if you look at 2 of the largest dividend ETFs out there in the marketplace, they have 30% weightings in industrials and utilities. So especially in a time like this, look for diversification. There's no need to be making sector bets, even if they are unintentional as you're looking for yield. So really, high-yielding equities, sustainable dividends, and sector diversification are 3 things that people should look at when they're looking at dividend ETFs.
All right, Lance, thank you so much for the insight. And thank you for joining me at MarketSite. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.